Okay, so we're still doing 5.6 and we're on page 10. So now, one of the main reasons why we put things in scientific notation is because multiplying and dividing is very easy with very big numbers and very small numbers when we use scientific notation. So here is a scientific notation number, and here's another number in scientific notation. So if I want to multiply these, then all I do is I take the numbers that are in the front and I put them together, and then I put the powers of 10 together here. So then I use my calculator and I go 2.1 times 9. 2.1 times 9 is 18.9. And then I go, okay, well this is 10 to the 5 times 10 to the 3. And remember when we have, they have the same base, we can add the exponent. So that's 5 plus negative 3. Let's check. What's 5 plus negative 3? 2. So the exponent on our power of 10 is 2. But now it's not in scientific notation because we have to have only one digit in front of the decimal. So we need to change it into scientific notation again. So I need to move this decimal so it's here in between the 1 and the 8. But now we need to change the exponent. So let me just draw a little number line. Okay, so right now the exponent's at 2, but this needs to be equal to 18.9 times 10 to the 2. So if I move my decimal here, I make it 1, and it has to be equal to 18, so that gets bigger. So in order for this to get bigger, I need to make this exponent bigger. So we did one jump, so one jump bigger is 3, so this needs to be changed to a 3. Because 1 is small, 18 is big, so we get it bigger. And now let's check with our calculator. Okay. So we put it in our calculator, 2.1 times 10 to the power of 5. And if you put bracket here, look, there's a small bracket here, it doesn't work, so you have to delete it, push out, and then the bracket. And then push out, and then the bracket. So now let's check our answer. But it's not in scientific notation. So we have to put it in scientific notation. Number 7, hit 0, 1.89 to the power of 3. Look, same, so it's correct. Okay, so now let's look at divide. If I have something like this where it says very small number, I change it to scientific notation first. So I have to move the decimal to be here between the 4 and the 8 because 4 will be one digit in front of the decimal. I move it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 spaces. And because I'm making it, this is a small number, it's going to be a negative here in my exponent. But if I want to just use my calculator, I can go, how many zeros is that? 3, 3, 3, one more. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 8. And it puts it into scientific notation for me. So 4.8 times 10 to the power of 11. Let's put this into scientific notation. So the decimal's here, so I move it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I move it 10 places, or I can use my calculator. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So 2.4 times 10 to the 10. There. So now I've changed these numbers into scientific notation, and now for divide, I divide these on my calculator. So 4.8 divided by 2.4, and I get 2 times 10 to the 0. Oh, I need it as a normal number here. This is a normal number, so I don't want scientific numbers or scientific notation for this. So I'm going to go shift mode 8 is normal, and I hit 2. So the answer is 2. So when I divide this, Taqsim, divide, the answer is 2. Now when I do my powers of 10, I use my power rule. So remember when it's multiply, I add the exponents. But here it's this divide by this, so it's really negative 11 subtract. I use subtract here, subtract 10. So negative 11 subtract 10 is negative 21. So my new exponent here on the 10 is negative 21. And there's a decimal here and there's one number in front, so it's okay, it's in scientific notation. So let's check our answer. So I'm going to use my fraction button. Oops. 0. And then I'll put the number on the bottom. Ah, look, 2 times 10 to the negative 21. So I can use my calculator to check my work. Okay, so let's do some examples. So here, I put the numbers in the front together, 3 times 2.3, and I put the tens, the power of tens together. And then I use my calculator to multiply these. 3 times 2.3, that's 6.9. And because this is multiply, I add the exponent. So 4 plus 2 equals 6. So this is going to be 10 to the 6. I add the exponents. Now I can check on my calculator. If I hit my bracket, I always have to go over before I close my bracket, or it just is wrong. It looks funny. See, if I put my bracket here, it's very small, and up high, it doesn't work. So I have to push my calculator over, and then, oh, but it's not in scientific notation. So I have to go Shift, Mode, 7, 0. So 6.9, good. 10 to the 6, good, we did it correct. And you can use your calculator to do the questions. Okay. Let's do another times. No, let's do a divide down here. So I divide these numbers. 5.6 divide, or I can use my fraction button. 5.6 divide by 2. I don't want scientific notation for this, so let's get it out. Let's put it in normal. So SD 2.8. So when I divide this, it's equal to 2.8. And when I have divide for my exponent rule, I subtract. So 5 subtract 3 equals 2. So the exponent on my 10 is 2. Let's use our calculator to check. Use the fraction button. And that's not scientific notation, so let's put it into scientific notation. Shift, Mode, 8 is normal, and I have to choose 2. And I push equals again. Oh, I put normal. I want scientific, which is 7. Hit 0. There, 2.8 times 10 to the 2. Good. Okay, next page. So we have to put our answers in scientific notation, and these need to be in scientific notation. So the decimals here, so 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's 2 times, our decimals there, 10. We moved it 4 places. And because it's a big number, it's positive. And here the decimal was here, so I move it 1, 2, 3. So 2.9. I moved it 3 places, so it's 10 to the 3. So now I just multiply the numbers that are in the front together, and the tens go together. So I use my calculator for that. 2 times 2.9. Oh, but I don't want it in scientific notation for this part. 8 is normal. So that's 5.8 times. And when I use the multiplication rule here, I just add my exponents. So 4 plus 3 equals 7. So that's 10 to the 7. Now, if you want to use your calculator for this question, you can just put it in like this. 20,000 times 2,900. And we want it in scientific notation. So Shift, Mode, 7, 0. 5.8 times 10 to the 7. We are correct. Okay. Now let's do some small numbers. These are very small numbers. So let's put them in scientific notation first. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We moved it 5 places, but because this is a small number, and we need to use negatives. So here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're going to put it there. So it's 1.9 times 10 to the 6. But because this is a small number, it needs to be a negative. So now I take these and put them together. And I put the powers of 10 together. And I use my calculator to do this part. But I don't want scientific notation here, so let's get out, put it in normal. There, so that's equal to 5.7. And then because it's multiply, I'm going to add my exponents. So negative 5 plus negative 6 equals negative 11. So my exponent down here is going to be negative 11. And then we can check our answer using our calculator. 0.00003 times 0. You just put in what you see. 5.710 to the negative 11. Correct. Okay, so you can use your calculator for this. But if you want to go to college algebra, you have to understand these rules and how to do it. Okay, let's do number 7. Now let's do number 8. So that's a big number, that's a small number. So we're going to first put them into scientific notation. So the decimal's here. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's 4.2 times 10. We moved it 4 places, but because it's a big number, it's going to be positive. Move it 1, 2, 3. But because this is a small number, it's got to be a negative 3. Let me sharpen my pencil. Now, for divide, we divide this on our calculator here. So divide them. So 4.2 divided by 7.0. 0.6 times 10. Now because it's divide, we have to subtract our exponents. 4 subtract negative 3. 4 subtract negative 3. Oh, just wait. Let me pause it. Someone's at my door. Okay, so I put it in wrong. 4 subtract negative 3. That's 7. Ugh, my pencil. Because that changes to add the opposite. So 4 plus 3 is 7. So that's 7. But we're not allowed to have a 0 in front of the decimal. So I'm going to have to move the decimal over 1. So it's 6.0. And I have to decide what goes here. It's either going to be a 6 or an 8. So let's go 0, 6, 7, 8. So this has to be equal to 0.6 times 10 to the 7. I just took this and wrote it down here. So this is 6, and this is less than 0. So that's getting smaller. So I have to make it smaller. So if it's 7, I have to make it smaller, so I should put a 6 here. Because I jumped it by 1, so I'm going to put a 6 there. So 6 is big, 0 is small, so I have to make it smaller. So this has to become smaller. I have to multiply it by a smaller number to get this small. Okay? So let's check using our calculator. So say on a test or something you go, oh my gosh, I can't remember how to do the exponent. You can use your calculator and it will tell you the answer, so you can sort of fix things to make it correct. So I'm going to put it in my calculator. Just whatever I see. Oh, but it's not scientific notation, so let's put it in scientific notation. Number 7, 0. So 6.0, don't write all these zeros, times 10 to the 6. Okay, how's that? Good. So it's the next page. Let's look at the next page. It says, write the number in scientific notation. So here's my decimal. So I'm just going 1, 2, 3, 4. I put the decimal here. I don't need to write all the zeros. So I always have to have one digit in front of the decimal that's not 0. And I moved it 1, 2, 3, 4 places. And because it's a big number, it has to be positive. So if I want to use my calculator, oops, only 2 zeros. 7.93 times 10 to the 4. Good. Now the next one, I have to move it to put the decimal here so it goes 5.8 because I need one digit in front of the decimal. And if I move it 1, I put a 1 here, but because it's a small number, I have to make it -1. But let's check using our calculator. 5.8 times 10 to the -1. Good. So now it says write the number as a decimal. So that just means like a normal number. So we can just put this in our calculator. Oh, it's in scientific notation. I want a normal number. So shift mode normal 2. So 68,000. But if I didn't know how to do it, I can go if I didn't want to use my calculator, I write 6.8 and then I have to make it bigger by 4 because it's positive. So I go 1, 2, 3, 4. So my decimal's here now, and every jump I make a 0. So you can see that 68,000. My decimal is here. Okay, let's do this one. 2.72, and I have to make it smaller by 5 jumps. So let's make it smaller. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Put my decimal here. Every jump I put a 0. So I'm going to write it again so it's nicer. I group it in groups of 3, remember? 0, and I put a 0 in the front here. 0.0000272. Okay, but we can check on our calculator. So let's check. 2.72 times 10 to the -5. Oh, but oh yeah, it's a normal number. See, it's correct. Okay, so now you know how to finish the book.